Bodybuilding. You hear that word, you probably think of huge muscles. Getting big or jacked, that's part of the classical definition. And I think that is a huge part of it. But I think bodybuilding is so much more than just that. It's about building strength. It's about the ability to maybe live a functional life, gaining mobility, flexibility. Maybe it's about progressing as a person over time. It can also be about something that's much deeper, personal progress through small and consistent efforts. Maybe you're in a later stage in your life and you got a wake-up call from a doctor, you know, whatever the reason. You need to train and lose weight and go through stuff like that. So I think that in essence, I think is what bodybuilding really is. So first of all, a lot of pros to bodybuilding. Let's go through them. For one, increasing muscle mass. Glucose or sugar is stored in your muscles. So when you have more muscles, you can store more glucose, which can help with type 2 diabetes and overall blood sugar management. It also increases bone density, which is crucial for preventing osteoporosis and the like. Oh, and did I mention that it decreases all-cause mortality? Now, to be honest, if we are just talking about bodybuilding, it doesn't really have any cons. I suppose if you isolate it, maybe you could say a con is, oh, people hurt themselves by lifting too much, or maybe you could say people get pretty shallow and stuff like that. But I think in terms of the actual sport, there's actually very minimal cons. Unfortunately, when we're talking about bodybuilding, we also have to talk about steroids and PED abuse, which is, I guess, going to be one of the major cons. First of all, PED is a performance enhancing drug. It's just a synthetically made drug that significantly increases your body's ability to build muscle. Be as unbiased as possible. Let's talk about the pros of steroids. You build muscle. Okay, now the cons. So we don't have all day. I'll try to be quick running through these. I am going to read a list here. Okay, forgive me. Negative effects include serious cardiovascular issues, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, an increased risk of heart attack or stroke. You can have liver problems such as liver damage, tumors. You can develop a condition where you have blood-filled cysts on your liver. Sounds like a fun one and definitely worth taking PEDs. We're also talking about severe mood swings, irritability, aggression, or roid rage. Let's not forget about severe chronic acne. Your skin becomes incredibly oily. And then those are general non-gender specific effects. If we get into gender, for men, steroids can cause the testicles to shrink. They reduce fertility. They can lead to gynecomastia, which is man boobs, and even cause baldness. In women, leads to a deepening of the voice, excessive facial hair, and enlarged disruptions to the menstrual cycle, and a decrease in breast size. So it's a lose-lose for men or women. Keep in mind that the gender-specific symptoms, so you can have these gender-specific symptoms with all the other general symptoms. Let's take it back a notch, switch gears. Bodybuilding is also very deeply interconnected with food, and unfortunately it can lead, I say can, okay, not every time, but it can lead to a very disordered relationship with it. Starting with just an understanding of what bulking and cutting is and what it can be if used correctly. So a bulk, when you eat more calories than your body burns, because you are eating more calories, your body has more calories to put towards building muscle and strength and so on and so forth. Something very important here is when you are in a bulk, it is unavoidable to gain some body fat. Now, a cut is the flip side of this. It is you are consuming less calories than your body burns. So your body basically needs to take care of the excess body fat, which is the goal. And then something here as well as it's unavoidable that you will lose some muscle mass. Now, when you are gaining body fat with a bulk and you are losing muscle mass with a cut, there are things you can do to gain less body fat, and there are things you could do to lose less muscle mass. But it is a fact that those will happen in both of those circumstances. Now, if we talk about eating disorders, disordered eating, bulking can turn into binging, and then cutting can turn into purging. You may very well be informed on what both of these are, but basically binging is where you eat a massive amount of food in a very small amount of time, and then usually this is followed by guilt and shame, and you're like, oh, I ate bad foods. Maybe you ate pizza, maybe you binged on donuts, so on and so forth. So a lot of it is, okay, then you have to make up for it. You have to punish yourself. Maybe you punish yourself with like certain workouts, with cardio. Maybe you skip meals, and then you're like, okay, I can never have pizza again, and then I can never have Oreos again. And then that's what leads to the really unhealthy purging behavior. Now, I'm not saying that every food is healthy, but it all comes down to balance and moderation. If I have a Big Mac for every meal every day, is that healthy? No. If I have a Big Mac once or twice a week for one meal, is that unhealthy? Not really. It is unhealthy to remove entire food groups, carbs, fats, anything considered unhealthy. And then a lot of times with these unhealthy foods, it simply increases the cravings more. For example, I love pizza. If I tell myself I can't ever have pizza, I will get to a point where my willpower will be weaker than my desire to have pizza, and I will cave at some point. But if there's no taboo about it and I go have pizza once a week, it really doesn't bring down my health in any negative way, and actually I would say really helps my mental health be better. When it comes to eating disorders and the binging that can happen, there's a lot of negative symptoms. Basically a general loss of fertility in both genders. In women specifically, you can lose your menstrual cycle entirely, and then not to mention the decrease in mood, the irritability, and then your entire mental health is going to be screwed over as well. Okay, what if you don't struggle with any of that? Perfect with your food, you don't take steroids, boom, bodybuilding is healthy. Well, still another major issue, which everyone's heard of, body dysmorphia. Now, this is when someone has a very distorted view of their body, believing they're too small or not lean enough, right? We've all seen the guys look in the mirror and they're huge and I'm not big enough, or my biceps are small. And studies have actually shown that it is significantly more prevalent in bodybuilders, which I think checks out. But why? So it has nothing to do with how they actually look. Okay, truth bomb here. Prepare yourself. So a lot of these people have experienced serious adult or childhood trauma, which then they use the bodybuilding as a form of armor to protect themselves, right? If they are bigger and stronger than they were, then that wouldn't have happened. And if they're bigger and stronger, then they can prevent it. Underneath the muscles are inadequacy and real mental health issues that you should go to therapy for, by the way. And their self-worth becomes directly tied to their body image instead of relationships, instead of their career, instead of personal character. This leads to a pursuit of a perfect physique, which is not only subjective, but objectively unattainable. You of course also have to talk about social media. So social media, we see the top 1% of the 1% with 7 billion people in the world. They tell you that you can look exactly like them and that you can look exactly like them in about 3 weeks. But there's a caveat. You have to buy their program and you have to do exactly what they say. Every man has a six-pack and giant muscles. Every woman has a huge dump truck and a snatched waist. And then seeing all this, because it's all over, the 1% of the 1% is everywhere over social media, right? It's all you see. So then you become the minority. You're the one that's not normal. Push and push, you buy the programs, you start cutting out the unhealthy foods, and you're doing really good, and then you do this for about 3 weeks, and then you look in the mirror and you look exactly the same. Because they're lying to you. Unfortunately, a lot of these people, they are using PEDs or they do have BBLs. A lot of it can be posing for the camera, for certain pictures, for certain videos. In whole, it's dishonest. Of course, they can't tell you that they got a BBL. They can't tell you that they're using PEDs because then you're like, oh, I can't look like them. I can't look as big as they do. I can't look as snatched as they do. And you don't buy their program. If you do struggle with self-comparison and the inadequacy, studies have shown that social media makes this much, much worse. So it might be something you want to back off of. Overall though, is bodybuilding healthy? Let me know what you think. Give me some thoughts. I'm open to hear all opinions in the comments. Just remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Have a Big Mac or two this week. Also throw in heavily nutritious foods like vegetables and fruit, things like beans and wheat pasta and so on and so forth. Bye.